Now, there's a number of death lists. The backbone of the struggle against apartheid was the labor movement.
I admire them deeply. I find them both exceptionally brave and courageous, wonderful people.
You know, they say 2 hands, they wash each other. 2 hands, they're helping each other. What makes their marriage so special is love.
Mom took a while to say yes and to be sure. Different continents, different hemispheres, a child, take your time to say yes.
It was 14th of December, 91, right, when we got married?
Albertina, I'd asked her to speak because she was so close to us. And so she starts off her speech saying, Lucie, I want to tell you that Jay is already married.
While everything's going in my head, I'm ready to run away. She says, his first wife is the country. You're the second wife. I said, sure, but you know what? She was right. I come from a small village in Canada, and we moved a lot because my father was in the armed forces, so I was live in the English province before moving to Quebec, but we've always spoken French at home. My life was studying and then journalism. So I finished my degree in 1985, 1986. And then I had a child, and so my life was quiet. It was a quiet life, and I did what I liked, raise my child. I had him a shared custody 1 week, and I played the piano, and then the nature, the woods, the forest, the lakes, that was my life. And then in 1990, when Mandela was freed from jail, then I'm the one that was sent to South Africa to cover that. And I thought I would go back to my quiet life, but that's not what happened.
Well, my life was about politics. I was 4 years old when we were evicted from our house because we were the wrong color on the wrong side of the street. And, you know, you didn't have a choice. And I suppose there was a tremendous amount of anger in me about exclusion from everything, you know. I mean, you know, you couldn't even go to the beach in Durban, you know, even though it was called the Indian Ocean, you're not allowed to go on it. So, you know, you grow up with a lot of anger that I recognize even today. And fortunately, when I was a young teenager at 15 years old, I went to listen to Steve Biko, and he took my anger and he channeled it into a political cause.
27th of October 1990, we were at Orlando Stadium. There was 50,000 people. And they were all toying and singing and talking, and a lot of people, and the one speaker after the other, and I was taking notes. And then this one guy comes on the stage with the red silk shirt and jeans. And he says, Amandla, and the whole stadium shuts up. And I look around and I tell my researcher, who's this guy? I want him in my documentary. One of the documentaries I was doing is on the history of jazz in South Africa with the African jazz pioneers. And we were wrapping up the interview. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I see Jay coming down the stairs in the Jameson's bar. And I said, hey, you, Jay Naidoo, I want an interview. And you looked at me and you just kind of swore me off and said, I don't meet journalists. And I was white, a journalist, which was poisoned during the apartheid times, right? But I pursued him. The one thing I do have is perseverance and courage. So I took my perseverance in one hand and my courage in the other, and I went and I said, Mr. Naidoo, I would really like an interview. And you looked at me and you said, you can sit here as long as you don't discuss politics. And then that night I realized who actually was, because he didn't just shut up the stadium, because it was 2 in the morning. I was working the next morning. I said, I have to go back to my hotel. I said, how are you going back? He said, no, I'm walking. He said, no, you can't walk. I said, it's not even a kilometer. He said, danger here has nothing to do with distance. I'll walk with you. So he walked with me to the hotel, and we got held up by 5 guys that were armed with knives, and they wanted money and kill us. And then they recognized, oh, sorry. And they all left. I said, wow, okay. I really want you in my documentary.
We arrived at the hotel, and she invited me to come to her room.
Yes. And you refused.
I refused because as a gentleman, you don't do that on the first date.
No, it's not that reason you refused.
What?
It's because you didn't want the shop stewards to see you going in the hotel with a white woman.
I wasn't married, Lucy. I was single.
No. I remember.
They would be very proud of me.
No, it has nothing to do with you. It's because you didn't want to be seen with a white lady in a
Okay, there's
in a
two
hotel.
sides to this story.
No,
okay?
You're the politician, I'm the journalist. Who will people believe?
When I met Lucy, my life was the blood of the struggle. And I remember saying to you the first date we went on that,
That time you didn't have money to pay for the meal.
Yes,
What did you say?
I said the intention was really important, that I took you out on a date. The fact that I didn't have money in the wallet, well, is a consequence of me being a struggling trade unionist.
And it's proof I didn't marry you for your money.
Exactly. And I said that 90% of my life is about fighting for freedom.
No, you said 95%.
95%.
You said the 5% left is for sleeping.
Okay.
I remember that.
So that was my life, actually. And I'm intensely grateful that you made me discover that my life is more than politics. It took a long time.
We're starting to equilibrate.
Yes, 30 years later. I think we've learned the lesson.
But, I interviewed him in 1990 because he was General Secretary of COSATU. But I just want to point out that I don't do that with all my interviewees, marry them and have children. That was the exception.
I think we were lying on the snow and we were doing snow angels. Oh, it was beautiful. And it's just the silence of everything. I'm suddenly starting to feel a bit human. I'm starting to see that life is more than just fighting a struggle, or constantly in battle with people around issues that are just and fair, but there's more to life than politics. And, you gave me that, so that's why 36 was, in fact, a death for me of my old life, and to become more human. You
took me out to, what was the name of that restaurant in Yeovil? Indian restaurant. So it was our second or third night together. And the same song plays, La Vie en Rose, des Edith Piaf. And for me, it was a sign that he was the one. Things actually attracted me to him, and still every day I wake up and he still has it, is his integrity and his compassion.
The thing that attracted me to you was your passion. Nothing was impossible to achieve.
I think my dad was the first to say I love you because he knew he needed to step up to get my mom because, she's incredible. And back then also, it was quite an incredible story.
Jay was the first one to say I love you. And we were at my father's house. And it was during the night, you held me and you said, I love you. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. I was scared about that because it meant commitment. Yeah. And I thought maybe he says that to all the women, so I needed to be sure. But I didn't know that. The first marriage proposal happened in February 1991. He was coming to the United States and he invited me, and I managed to get a week off my work and go meet him in New York. And he has a little bag something, and I'm not too sure what's it. Oh, let's go take a walk. And we're walking and we go to Strawberry Field Parks. And then he reads me a poem of Pablo Neruda, and I said, oh, he's so sweet, this guy. And then he takes out this little brown bag and pulls out a ring, which was a doubtful quality. And he asked me to marry him, and my jaw drops. And I said, well, I'll think about it.
Mom took a while to say yes. I feel like, as every woman should, take a while to say yes and to be sure, especially when there's a child involved. My brother Leandre was, I think, 3 years old when this all happened. And I think, different continents, different hemispheres, a child, take your time to say yes.
I had a life. My friends, my family, my son, my job, everything. And then to marry him and to move to a continent, and I had to give all that up. And it was, for months, it was going, and I would stay awake at night and sometimes cry, sometimes laugh. And then one day I went to sit with my mother and I said, Mom, I don't know what to do. This guy asked me to marry him and I'm so mixed up. I don't know what to do. Do you love him? Yes. Does he love you? Yes. And then she said, Lucie, the things at the end of a life, we don't regret what we did. We regret what we didn't do. She said, go. And if it doesn't work, come back. It doesn't work. So I'm still here. Were you sure of yourself when you proposed?
Yeah.
You never did that to another woman?
I never did that to another woman. And also Strawberry Fields was John Lennon, and it was a significant person in my life. I think I wanted to change my life in a different way. And, we physically, intellectually, emotionally, were attracted to each other. And I felt that there was a future. Mandela was out of prison. It was a bit shaky in terms of where we were going as a country. But I felt we had a future in this country, and I wanted to share that.
When you asked me again, I said, of course, but he said, okay, we'll get married in 3 weeks' time. So it was 14th of December, 91, right? Where we got married, just in case you forgot. So we had 3 weeks too. So I was very happy, but then I had to, because I wanted to wait for my son to be there.
I wasn't in the position to have a lot of money, so my best friend is Omar Matani, So he said, okay, how many people do you expect at the wedding? So I said, no, maybe about 100 or so. He said, we can have it in the house. And so we said...
On the tennis court?
In the tennis court. It'll be the tennis court oath. And so he said, no, I'll arrange it. So I brought my family up. We arranged for Lucie's mom to come.
And Leon's father.
And Leon's father.
600 people pitched up. But there was Walter Sisulu and Oliver Tambo and Albertina Adelaide and Madiba.
And Cyril Ramaphosa, and all of the union people were there.
Yeah. We had a Hindu priest, a Catholic priest. So it was a big thing. And then the night was going on, and then people were starting to leave. It was midnight, 1 o'clock. I said, Jay, we didn't sign any papers. He said, I forgot to tell you. The Catholic priest only has a permit to marry in Soweto, in the black area, and the Hindu marriages are not recognized by apartheid government. I said, we did all this for nothing? So he said, not for nothing. So we still weren't married.
I was one of the flower girls at Jay's wedding. I remember there was a lot of good food, music. It was a good Indian wedding, how us Indians roll. I remember Jay biting a garter off Lucie's leg. That memory I have quite clearly. I remember her laughing hysterically. He was not doing it very well.
Madiba arrives and he's dressed all casually.
With white running shoes.
Or white running shoes and things.
And it looked like a tennis outfit. Maybe because he thought it was on a tennis court, I don't know.
So anyway, he says, but Jay, you're a trade unionist. I've never seen you in a suit before. I expected everything to be casual in T-shirts, So he arrives. casually dressed, you know. And then Albertina, I'd asked her to speak because she was so close to us and she loved Lucie as well. And so she starts up a speech saying, Lucie, I want to tell you that Jay is already married.
Whoa, when she said that, my jaw dropped.
Even your mom's mouth.
Everyone. Said, oh no, what did I get myself into? Is this one kind of guy, you know? Did I go so wrong? And then while everything's going in my head, I'm ready to run away. She says, his first wife is the country. You're the second wife. I said, sure, but you know what? She was right. So we had to get married again, for real. So in Quebec, I invited all my friends and family. We were 42.
So we had legal papers signed.
Yeah, then we're officially married.
Yeah, officially married.
Mrs. Lucie Pagé is married to Mr. Jay Naidoo.
Yes.
Yes, because in Quebec, a woman doesn't change her name. You're born with a name, you die with a name. But go try explaining that here in South Africa.
But I'm very happy to be called Mr. Lucie Pagé in Quebec.
No, but it's ridiculous that a woman would need to change her name to be someone.
No, but it's part of the patriarchy we're dealing with, which is that somehow a woman has to be verified by her husband, which is a lot of bull, actually. Completely.
Yeah, we agree. Have you asked yourself the question, why the third wedding? I have my answer, but...
Why the third wedding?
Yeah.
I had never been to India. The first time I went to India was with you and Shanti when she was 6 months old. The first time I saw the majority of people in a country looking like me, so I was a bit shocking to me. But somehow I did want to know where I come from. You know, my great-grandmother Angama had arrived here in 1864 as an indentured laborer, like a slave. And I wanted to know that. And somehow, as I started to explore that, I understood that I'm carrying that ancestry with me. And so I thought she had changed the line of ancestry for me, of me and my family forever, over 4 generations. And I felt a close bond with her. And one of the reasons was to do it in a temple in India would be like celebrating her courage. And I think it was paying my respects to her, to say thank you. And to do that in India was thanking those ancestors that have the courage that she had to come here with a young child in the 1860s. And so, yeah, it was gratitude.
As for me, getting the third wedding wasn't, I understand your point of view, but it was because we're 3 children were there and my mom was there and his sister Nisha was there. Because in the beginning, with everything happening in our relationship and the country and everything, sometimes I would almost expect that this marriage won't work, this won't work, this won't work, because there's so many things different. And the third wedding was for me, no, this will work. And it was to seal our destiny in your ancestor country. It was to seal our destiny consciously. I was conscious about it with our 3 children. For me, it was the most important wedding. Jay was there with the birth of our 2 children, and he was an active participant. Camilla had at the hospital, but in the natural birth section with the midwives. And then Shanti we decided to have at home. And Shanti was very quick, 1 hour. And actually Jay was on TV because it was June 16th. It was 8 o'clock, the show started, and then 8:10 my contraction started. And then I knew it was every 3 minutes, so I knew this was a thing. So we phoned the TV and said, please tell Jay Naidoo his wife is having the baby. And they must have thought, oh, she's just having we have time. But no, this thing was coming fast, and the midwives weren't there either. So I was alone at home with my mom, and there was other people there because it was June 16th. And so on TV, we hear, Jay, you have to go home, your wife is giving birth, and he's answering a question. They take the microphone off and he's there continuing to answer the question. So he goes, and they arrived just in time, and he cut the baby and he cut the cord, and yeah, it was beautiful birth where he was very active in every part of it.
Yes, it was beautiful.
This couple, they were good parents to their children. Jay, with the children, is the best father. He's a good father. He raised his children very, very good. He taught his children respect. I never heard them complaining about their children or about their house. Even if I was shouting at the children, I never had them complaining, because when I started to work for them, they told me, you grow these children like you grow yours. That is how I grew these children, and until now they're so big.
When Chris Hani died, I knew that Jay was the next one on the list because I had seen the list. And that's what scared me. So when I went into the room to tell, because we were in the Kruger Park it was his first game drive, because I was allowed to go, and you was the first time you were allowed to go. And so I came in the room and I was crying, not because Chris Hani died, because I was scared for him. And then when I told him, it's the first time I had seen my husband cry. And I haven't seen him cry since. He broke down because Chris and him were very, very good friends. And so I was terrified. Okay, yes, I was sad Chris died, and I had met him many times and I really liked him. He was a great guy. But the fear that came inside me said, if it's possible with Chris, it's possible with Jay.
After Chris Hani, yes. That was the time when I was scared. I was afraid all the time when I was at home. I was locking everything. I was locking the gate. I was locking everything because I was scared. I was scared with the kids inside. And when Jay went to work, we have to stay up until he comes back, because we were scared maybe he's going to be the next. He's going to be the next one.
No, I was on a number of death lists, because I was general secretary. I wasn't sitting in exile, or in prison. And we were mobilizing. The backbone of the struggle against apartheid was the labor movement. And our country was not liberated by by foreigners. It was not liberated by leaders. It was when the people of South Africa stood up and said, we had enough.
My parents are really similar in their approach to handling situations and their approach to experiencing life. How they view life differs often in their communication. They will disagree often, but they're so similar in their, okay, how are we going to solve this argument? And how are we going to ensure everyone feels respected? And always wanting a situation to be beneficial for everyone involved. The level of compassion, it transcends, their different cultures, their different language, different everything.
If they can argue, I never heard them doing that. I never seen them argue in 24 years.
They embrace what it means to be human on such a beautiful level. I mean, even in their romance, they've managed to embrace the progression and the evolution of romantic love in such a beautiful way. And so for me, as a couple, they are the ideal.
One question that comes up a lot, how is it to be married to someone so completely different? Because we have different languages, culture, religion, tradition. But beyond that, the food, I was cooking spicy Indian food before meeting Jay because I had been to India before him. So that was good. But sometimes it could be a bit sticky. For example, in your culture, you shave the hair of the baby off. So one day we're in Durban and Cammy's just been born. He's about 2 months old or something. And I went to breastfeed and I had a nap at the same time, so I fell asleep. And then I woke up, the baby wasn't there anymore, so I said, oh, they came and took the baby, he must have been, and you know, in the beginning you're pretty tired. I get outside, my son had no more hair. That one, you still remember.
I still remember.
That's the last time he did a mistake like that because I freaked out. And so where it is interesting and nice, the cultures that clash is in the kitchen. Because we've invented some wonderful recipes by clashing our cultures, like cooking eggs in maple syrup and chilies. And, you know, so that we do some amazing nice, so you do that in Durban and we do that in Quebec. Let's mix the two and see. And we've come up with amazing recipes, and not for a recipe book,
and I must tell you,
Culture Crash recipe book.
No, but I must tell you, it's like one of the great introductions that Lucie did in Quebec was introducing them to bunny chows.
Yeah, I did.
It's
I did introduce Quebecois to bunny chows. Yes.
Bunny chows, you know. So, and I think that ultimately, it's that attitude to culture that you weave something that is universal. Not that my culture is more important than your culture.
Exactly.
How do we weave something that accommodates all, where we all feel we fit in, I'm seen, I belong? And that's what we have to do now at a grander level of building the South Africa we want.
Neither of them are materialistic people. Jay is very much actually understands and will tell you frankly that money is just an energy, you know. It's not something that you can ever define yourself by, you know. Your possessions should just be just that, you know, and you shouldn't have any attachment necessarily towards them.
We've actually given this house away to our daughter, who set up an NGO that she calls 7 Generations, that is becoming a healing center and a safe space for women and children.
They live in a way in which it's kind of like the less you have, almost, the more content you can be, you know. He understands that big money can cause big problems. So I think they're very content to live simply, humbly, not necessarily do anything too lavish. They're much more into giving than consuming, 100%. That's both of them.
My dad is definitely the first to say, I'm sorry.
We don't really have big arguments about things, you know. It's like, because usually, wait, can I say?
Okay.
It's like, usually in this relationship, the reason it works is because I have the last word.
I always leave in the last word, which is?
Oui, mon chéri.
Of course, my darling.
The cat says, okay, let's talk.
Oh, he's an amazing storyteller, because at night we read a story to the children. Well, when the children were small, now the grandchildren. And I would come with my books and which book you want, and okay, this one, and I read the words. And he starts off with the first page, and then the words go out the window. He invents his own stories. It was so beautiful, and the children just loved it. He's an amazing storyteller, especially for children, yeah.
I love that, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like a child again. I was not there when the children were growing up, and I came from a family of 7 children. And my father was nearly 60 when I was born, so I didn't really grow up with an intimate father figure. And I think that ultimately, it's that attitude to culture that you weave something that is universal. Not that my culture is more important than your culture. So I think that ultimately, it's that attitude to culture that you weave something that is universal. And those fathers in those days were very different to fathers today, you know. And so I'm discovering a whole new world through the eyes of my two grandsons. And I call them my wisdom keepers. I think my greatest lessons I learned from them. Just like in politics, my greatest lessons weren't from experts and leaders with long PhDs. It actually was migrant workers living in terrible conditions in hostels who could barely read or write. They were my main teachers. And like today, my main teachers are my two grandsons. In addition to you, my darling.
Oh, Lucie as a person is a good person. It's a good mama. It's a good sister. It's a good granny. It's a good everything.
They are incredible as grandparents. The way they teach my son, it's just this infinite patience and such a deep compassion. Kind of teaches my dad especially so much constantly, and my mom always teaches kind of something new, and it's just this exchange of wisdom and happiness and experience. It's not like a top-down approach of I'm your elder. It's just such a beautiful relationship, and I admire them so much for teaching my son values that you can't learn anywhere else. He goes up to trees now and hugs them, and that definitely comes from them. And I'm just so grateful for them. They really embrace the role of elders beautifully, and I'm very grateful for that. She was never bound by the expectations of a minister's wife. And I think that's a big reason why my dad was so, attracted to her. But also, I'm really happy that she is who she is because she taught me to be strong and independent, yes, but beyond that, someone who will stand for her morals beyond the expectation of what she should look like and speak like. And I'm so happy for that because I know the place of woman thanks to her, which is not behind a man.
You see, I'm not impressed by titles. I'm not impressed by what you wear, and I'm not impressed by what car you drive. I'm not impressed even by your words. What impresses me is your actions and how you behave.
Oh, that violet overflowing.
I was aware of my mom struggling with depression. It was, part of my life. And I learned a lot from how she handled it. I learned a lot from how my dad handled it. I learned how people who suffer from depression should be treated. And I can just say that the lessons I've learned from seeing them handle this burden, this teacher, has shaped how I view it today. I view it as a teacher, and it's thanks to how my parents handled it. The main problem with people suffering with depression is the shame and the guilt that comes around it. My father never made her feel guilty about it.
There's a lot of things what can make you battle with the depression. But Lucie, she is a strong woman. She doesn't let depression to press her down. No. I wish I can be strong like her.
Therapy has been part of our lives, my life before that of Jay, and because of the depression I suffered when I first arrived here, I went into therapy, and then in my life as general also, I've been in therapy for other reasons. I found it difficult to deal with everything the way South Africa was, especially in the early 90s. And I think any couple at one point needs therapy because we tend to give up too easily.
My attitude to emotions was always putting them in the bottle and corking the bottle, And at some point in a relationship, that's not sustainable. Because and that's why there's an explosion. And when the explosion comes, it's like a tsunami. And then you drown. And then your instinct is, oh, I can't live with you.
The first time I realized my dad was in depression, and that was really hard because I had never seen him in that state before. We realized that it was only him who could get himself out of the depression. He went to an ashram before COVID, and I got stuck in India actually for like 5 months, yeah. But it was what really helped him shed what he needed to shed, and learn what he needed to learn. I think the peace, the quiet, he came back a new man. He had just become this elder. I don't mean like an old man, I mean this wise wisdom keeper. But at the same time, I found that he had found his inner child again. And he was more playful in a way, but also very wise in it. It was so beautiful to see, and I think that's what shaped him as a grandparent now. That's why he's so incredible as a grandparent.
As a father, as a trade unionist, as whatever he was, he did everything to his best ability. I think that in itself, automatically, the people that you're around, it will make you want to change yourself. Like I remember Jay saying to me a little while ago, you know, Hanifa, I always had this dream and this vision that I really wanted to change the world. I wanted to make this grand impact to, you know, fight all of these social injustices. And it was only at this point when he was stuck in lockdown in India at the Isha Kriya Center that he sort of realized that his best bet at changing the world is just to absolutely be the best version of himself that he can be.
In 2013, you know, I could see the rising anger in this country. And with a group of people that I worked with then, I said, you know what? We need to create a safe space for an intergenerational conversation on the multiple challenges facing us that are both local and global today, whether it's corruption, whether it's climate change, whether it's rights of women, whether it's patriarchy. Let's look at solutions. And we took a lot of our family savings and we put it into that project in the Eastern Free State, you know. Working with communities of farm workers who have been evicted, etc. And we built an eco-lodge that could accommodate these meetings. And we had many, many meetings there and worked with the local community where we allocated 42 hectares of land to them so that they would never be evicted again. I had some health issues. And also after 6 years, we felt the time has come for us to now let go. And so we took what we owned in the lodge and we handed it over to a beautiful NGO called Natural Justice, which works with indigenous communities. And they are using that lodge now to build a global center for indigenous healing and wisdom. And so again, bringing people from all around and particularly integrating indigenous African spirituality and medicine into the healing process, because, you know, Western medicine just claims the entire table, and it's as if there's no other medicine. And yet, if you look at you know what sangomas do, what natural healers do, there's tremendous, you know, importance in the medicines that have been here historically for thousands of years. And I think it's important that you need to let go. That's another example, a lesson in life of letting go of things, you know, that, you know, it's constantly challenging your ego. After almost 6 years of being there, we are in the process now, almost completed, of handing over.
It's up to them now.
It's up to them, you know.
We do like massages. We go once every 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
We try at least, and it's a very healthy issue, and we go together. And recently I went alone and I felt there was something missing, and I was feeling guilty because you didn't have it, you know. Jay gives nice massages, and when we watch movies, we like to watch movies together. I just gently, subtly put my feet on his lap, and he spends the whole movie massaging my feet. But when I was pregnant, every night he'd give me a foot massage. Every night, without exception. And even not pregnant. And we liked nice restaurants.
We like nice.
We rarely go out, but when we go out, we like to have a nice meal, a nice glass of wine or a nice bottle of champagne. We don't have champagne often, but once every 5-6 months or whatever it is. But yeah, we like a nice restaurant, nice bubbles, massages.
Yeah.
That's our kind of special outings that we have. Yeah.
I wish for them to see the changes that they've been trying to put into the world. I know that COVID seems to have set us back a bit in terms of the poverty gap widening here, you know, the polarization. I know that's something that it bothers Jay deeply. I wish for them that we, as their children, can continue the good work that they've started and that they can be alive and well to see us fulfill their dreams and to actually really make those tremendous changes that they've been wanting to see in the world. They're very loving, very passionate people, and I wish that they always stay that way. They're both in a very beautiful space in their life, and I think that love is love. It's beautiful, and it's something that they put out so profoundly and deeply into the world, and I hope and pray that they just continue to attract that level of love into their lives in every manner, everywhere.
They've gone from, you know, starting a career, being focused on career, being focused on family, finally making money, buying a house, but then realizing that it's not what brings happiness, and so entering a spiritual awakening. And in each of these phases of life, have been there for each other and respected where each of them were, and just holding space for each other. That's what I admire the most. Yeah.
I like their happiness. I like Jay and Lucie, they're always opening their hands to help the people. That is the best thing what I like, because they are not choosing people, we help this one, we don't help that one. And they're doing that together.
Art is important because it's the essence of life. It brings the head and the heart together to build a community that is working together.
Une vie sans art, c'est comme un jardin sans fleurs.
Nelson Mandela said that it seems impossible until it's done.
Yes, it is possible.
Their common values, their shared passions, and obviously their beautiful children. There's a lot that binds Jay and Lucie together. They're like magnets, you know. I think even in those periods when they weren't together, you could see a yearning for each other, you know. I've been married now a long time, you know. Sometimes you just want some space from your husband here and there. For them, it was like, I think they just always yearned for each other. They complement each other's souls in such a beautiful way. I can't tell you in words. Just seeing them together, it's as if you're watching a newlywed couple or something like that, the way they look at each other, and it's a very beautiful bond that they share.
I wish them long live. I wish them to be like this to everyone. They must be so good as they've been good when I started to work for them. But I want to give them the big thank, what I never had in my life.
My pride is in his integrity. Everything he does is with integrity, and it's selfless. It's not thinking of him, it's thinking of the others. It makes me feel very proud to see a husband that's selfless and that does things out of his heart. For real. He doesn't put on a show. It's for real what he does. So it's always about how we can help society, especially women and children, and that makes me very proud that he's always putting women and children first. And, you know, it transpires in our personal life. Like if I come with the groceries, he'll run to take the bags because he doesn't want me to carry the things, and he'll open the door for me. But that's him in the political world and the activist world. He operates out of his heart. Anything he does is out of his heart.
You know, I've learned a lot from Lucie. So I'm incredibly grateful to you for teaching me a lot of things about myself and about life, about children, about relationships, about caring for people. And I see how you take your work so seriously. You know, you're such an accomplished writer and a journalist and a communicator. And at the same time, you're soft and you're gentle and you're a mother and a grandmother and an advisor. I absolutely value the fact that we can go into any conversation on any subject and you always have something so profound to add to it, you know? And, you know, so if we look at our lives and we think, what have you achieved? Actually, people ask, what should we describe you as today, you know? I say, you know what? Best title, grandfather and elder. And I'm the husband of a beautiful woman.